Okay, let's go back to Andrew Bell at PDAC, because as trade tensions with the U.S. rise, there is fresh pressure on Canada to speed up major energy and resource projects. Andrew is standing by now with Tim Hodgson, Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, for more on this. Andy?
Thanks very much, Lindsay. Yep, back at PDAC, the world's #1 mining show. And yep, I'm with Tim Hodgson. He's the Minister for Energy and Natural Resources. Thanks for giving us the time, Minister.
Happy to do so.
So you've been almost a year in the job. I bet you didn't think we'd see this kind of life during wartime scenario, by which I mean nations anxious to secure supplies of these vital resources.
Well, look, it's we are in a new world order. The Prime Minister has been thinking about this for quite some time. His speech at Davos was really an articulation of what he has been seeing for the last year, and how he thinks we can tackle that. And I think the thing that made that speech so special to so many people was not just that he laid out in a way that people could understand what was happening and why people were feeling the angst they were feeling, but he also laid out a solution which was middle powers like Canada need to retool their economies, need to become less reliant on the hegemons, need to stop the scenario where hegemons use our integration with them for economic coercion, by building new partnerships, by building new trading relationships, by building new infrastructure that puts cards in our hands in this geopolitical world. And that is resonating with our allies around the world. And that's what makes this such a special moment, because critical minerals are the cards that we have that differentiate us in the world.
Although, in a way, it's more about the processing, isn't it? That's when the real value is added. Now, I know you're backing processing in this country, but it's going to take an awful long time to catch up with the Chinese. I mean, all the metal smelters are in Korea, Japan, China, and we're not building smelters yet in this country.
So what's happened is in other countries, their smelters have closed. We've kept ours open.
Some smelters, yes.
We have kept some of them open, and we're now reinvesting in those smelters, and we're taking advantage of core Canadian technologies around how to extract some of the critical minerals the world so desperately needs from our copper smelters, from our zinc smelters, from our nickel smelters, and that is differentiating us in the world.
You announced today a bunch of projects you're backing. Some are interesting. It's extracting minerals from old mining sites, at least one of them is. You said this will unlock, your government said it will unlock about $12 billion in private sector investment. One thing I'm always curious about, though, say you give 10, 20 million in support to a project. I don't recall seeing press releases, oh, well, this one failed, and we had to write off the investment.
Look, part of the role that the government plays is we want to provide capital where there are market failures. So we do things like our Canada Growth Fund provides first-of-a-kind risk. We finance that. That's hard to finance in the private sector. Taking that first-of-a-kind risk means that Canadian technology gets developed, gets proved out, and then we get to sell it to the rest of the world. We're doing that with some of the new smelting technologies that Crawford Nickel is talking about. We're looking at some new technology that Foran Copper is going to use. Those types of investments, they don't always pan out. We're doing work with Saskatchewan Research Council, which is, we're doing work with UCOR. We're doing work with some of the other refiners of heavy rare earth metals that is going to differentiate Canada and put cards in our hand.
Yeah, and obviously some of the stuff is going to fail. Mining is notoriously difficult. And this is another discussion, but I sometimes wonder if the government should do a better job of admitting when things have failed. But, you know, you can't. Yeah, sometimes it's, we can't talk about that. It's commercial confidentiality.
So I'm not sure which particular one you're talking about, but
Bombardier. A lot of money was lost in that fraud in South Africa involving Bombardier and the Gupta brothers.
yeah, but that's not a metals and mining.
No, okay. So yeah,
I'm focused on metals and mining here.
For sure you are. And as former head of Goldman Sachs, you know about raising money, and this kind of metal processing, it can be tough to actually attract capital. The early stages, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it can be, and that's why we have things like our first and last mile fund to create the infrastructure that would allow that processing to happen. Mm-hmm. That's why we've got our Critical Minerals Sovereign Fund, which is designed to do offtake agreements, provide potentially stockpiling under our Defense Security Act. Mm-hmm. Those types of things give market certainty to attract that capital. Mm-hmm. These are all tools that we're going to deploy to make sure that Canada not only leads in the production of critical minerals, but leads in the processing of those critical minerals as well.
What would you say? I know it's hard to, your job, you've got so much to do. It's not an easy job. But do you spend most of your time on energy or other natural resources, would you say?
I am the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources,
right.
So I do both.
Yes.
Look, I am incredibly fortunate that Canada is endowed with incredible conventional and clean energy and critical minerals and forestry that differentiates us with almost any other country in the world.
Certainly G7 countries, yeah.
What I find as I go around the world is they all want what we have. Today, energy security is national security. Secure critical mineral supply chains is national security, is sovereignty, and we have that. This is our moment. This is our moment to shine. The world wants what we need. We need to develop that, so we thrive in this world where hegemons want to behave in a way where they want to do as they may and have the weak do as they must. We can never be in that situation.
Now, I know you'll be tempted to give a non-answer to this one, but when you work for Goldman, things can move at lightning pace in investment banking, highly competitive. You put deals together, incredible deals, very quickly sometimes. When you move to oversee the public service, now you're not allowed to say the dedication of public servants impressed me, but what was the number one thing that struck you? I mean, it's a slower pace of life.
I think you'll find under this Prime Minister, the pace of life is pretty intense. And what I would say is certainly in my department, we see the civil service rising to the occasion. You see things like the core sample. I was talking with our 6 private sector partners around the Canadian core library that we
involving AI, I think.
Yes,
and
we have 6 private sector. What I heard from every one of those CEOs was, "Wow, you guys turned this around from talking about it to investing in it in 6 months." I mean, we are moving at speeds not seen since World War II. That's the directive from our Prime Minister.
It's interesting you mentioned, and of course, in the government in World War II brought in the $1 a day men but cutting through bureaucracy was a problem even back then. Yeah, I mean, you can't blame the public servants. I mean, that's the culture and they're very risk averse.
Look, what I'm finding is that the folks in Natural Resources Canada are rising to the challenge. Let me just look. Our department brokered the first 26 deals we announced back in October at the G7 Energy and Natural Resources Ministerial. We announced 30 deals today. I would put our department people up who have done 56 deals in 6 months and say they've been working hard.
There's a lot because they have to do due diligence and it's not an easy thing. Minister, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Tim Hodgson is the Minister for Energy and Natural Resources. It's BNN Bloomberg.